We all remember our favorite nursery rhymes. Can Lincoln Riley put Humpty Dumpty back together again?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, the show is going to be free, and you know how much I appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The once mighty Trojan Empire. Look, it's been crumbling ever since the sanctions kind of knocked USC from its perch up on the wall. King of the mountain, emperor, the prince of the pack. And ever since then, USC has been pushing out whatever they think will work. You had the sanctions, and then you've had a line of coaches: Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Clay Helton, Lincoln Riley. Everyone, you hear the nursery rhyme Humpty Dumpty. Everybody associates Humpty Dumpty as an egg. It fell off the wall, cracked, broken. Well, I think everyone would agree. Once an egg is broken, you can't put it back together. It's unfixable. But what you can do is make something of it. You can take what falls out of that broken egg, make the best of it. Make an omelet, scramble an egg. The question everybody has right now is Lincoln Riley the guy? Can he put Humpty Dumpty back together again? On yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, the answer of the day, and this was from Coach Riley when he was asked, hey, why is USC having problems? Why do they struggle closing out, winning games in the close games? And, I told you on the episode that Coach Riley kind of turned into Jeff Spicoli a little bit. I don't know. And I got the answer. I really did. It wasn't the right time to ask that question because the part I left out, and again, this is the nuance. This is what a lot of people don't really take into consideration, is Coach Riley had some really red, emotional eyes. And no, I'm not saying it, once the game was over, he went out and got stoned, try and calm down. But Coach Riley is a very passionate guy. He and I have very similar personalities. Some of you might have seen his locker room speech that was on social media a few weeks ago. It went viral. My point, Coach Riley is really passionate. He can get into it. He can have that fire and brimstone type of, effect inside the locker room. And when you're passionate and when you have that love for your team, that emotion literally gets ratcheted up tenfold on game days. So again, I get the question, but I'm not sure there was a right answer, 15 minutes after USC lost the game to Maryland. But I guarantee you there was some emotion in that locker room when he was addressing the team before he came out to talk to the media. And I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm not excusing anything. I'm not, saying, hey, let's give Coach Riley a pardon here. That's not the point. I'm just trying to, give both sides of the argument. It kind of sound, when I was doing my instant reaction show, some people took it a little bit of a sarcasm, and there was a little bit. But the bottom line is that wasn't the right answer. You can't give that answer at that moment. Even if it comes out coach speak, I need to do a better job of putting the team in a position to win these games. Again, it's coach speak, but it's not, I don't know. Remember, it wasn't the only answer he gave. He took accountability after the game. But you're not going to get a detailed response to why USC can't close out these close games. And by the way, it would take way too long to explain. I mean, there's so much to cover. There's a lot of why they're not winning these games. I go back to the days when I was coaching high school basketball. and we lost the championship game. I was the head coach of the freshman team. We lost the championship game. And I remember how much responsibility and accountability I took and how much it hurt. But I also got a phone call later that night from one of my team leaders. And he reassured me, hey, it's not you, it's everybody. You win as a team, you lose as a team. One of my greatest moments ever. One of my greatest memories ever. And I've told the story before, and I'll tell it again in the future. Anyways, but what we hear in the media, what you hear in those videos that we, the post game pressers, that's a very, I don't know how Cliff Notes version of what's being said inside that locker room. You're never going to hear what's said before, during, and after a game. What happens in the locker room stays in the locker room, and that's the way it should be. But now, look, we're at the season. USC's 3-4. It's kind of, you don't want to call it a crisis point, but everybody wants answers to why this USC team fell apart the way it has ever since the LSU and Utah State games. But I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. Probably want to go back to last year. USC right now, they're 10-9 in their last 19 regular season games. 11-11 in their last 22 overall. By the way, I love these stats that I find, periodically, scouring the internet. I didn't really fact check these, but they sound good. They sound right. They sound legitimate. So USC's 10-9 in their last 19 regular season games. They're even Steven in their last 22, 11-11. So let me ask this question. Getting blown out or losing by a couple of scores, when those types of losses happen, are those easier to accept? I think they are. Because when you're losing like that consistently, by 10 points, 14 points, getting blown out by 3 scores or more, I think it's easier to find the reasons why. It's a lot easier to identify. But when you're losing by 1 score after leading in the fourth quarter and late in the game at that, yeah, it's more complicated. One play here, one better officiating call over, there. Some of the most untimely turnovers by a team leader way over here. It all starts to add up. Starts getting inside everybody's head. They're looking for the next way that they're going to lose rather than how are we going to go win this game. And a lot of that comes back to coaching. It starts with the big toe. By the way, I'm not sure if anybody's aware of this. You cut off the big toe off your foot, go ahead and try and walk. You have no balance. Everybody needs a big toe to lead. Lincoln Riley is USC's big toe. So, again, a lot of this is coaching. These are mental mistakes that are happening on a weekly basis. Now, some people say, well, he doesn't have all the parts. Are the Trojans shorthanded? Absolutely. Some of that's by design. They gambled. They started the season with the offensive line room that they have now. Fortunately, they haven't been hurt. They've been, relatively been able to stay healthy. But as much as, we hoped Elijah Page and Mason Murphy could be the answers this year at offensive tackle, it hasn't worked out. It just hasn't. And let's remember, behind those guys, you got true freshmen. Right? Coach Riley didn't just say, I don't know, to the room full of Mr. Hands after the game Saturday night. He also said this: we're going to continue to hammer at it. There's not a magic remedy. You go back to work, you keep identifying things that we're not doing well. End quote. Here's the difficult part to kind of accept with that, because you got to keep going back to work, going back to the drawing board. But this team has been going back to work for over a month now, and it hasn't seemed to make anything better. In fact, You might say they're getting worse. So what's the answer? You know, what's the answer to putting USC back together again? Is Coach Riley the right guy for the job? Or, does he need better tools to work with? Now, here's some more food for thought. Another stat I saw. Pete Carroll, 3-8 in one-score games during his first 3 seasons at USC. It's not really good, is it? Lincoln Riley, in the same time span, and he still has for the rest of the year, by the way. So we'll see how this number adjusts. He's 7-7. That's a lot of one-score games. I remember all of those losses by the Pete Carroll teams. In fact, if I'm remembering correctly, 7 of those happened in the first season. Remember, they finished 6-6, and then they lost to Utah in the Vegas Bowl. And if I continue to remember correctly, number 8, year 2, at Kansas State. But what about that triple overtime loss in 2003? So maybe that number, that stat isn't completely accurate, but you get the point I'm making here. The difference is those losses under Coach Pete Carroll, everyone could see the team getting better as the season went along. Right now, you're not seeing that with Coach Riley's team, and that's what's so troublesome. That's what's causing so much concern. Asking the question, can Lincoln Riley put Humpty Dumpty back together again? Here's one last stat I want to throw at you. How does this make you feel? This one came courtesy of Paolo Uggetti from ESPN. We know this one. USC has held a fourth quarter lead in all 7 of their games this season. And right now they have a losing record. They're 3-4. Did you know that over the last 20 seasons, over 200 teams have had a fourth quarter lead in all 7 games, and only one other team has ever had a losing record? Ironically, that was Utah State 2011. Guess who USC has one of their 3 wins against? So there you go. A lot to fix. Humpty Dumpty, USC. Everyone feels like it's broken right now. I don't know if you can put it back together, but what can you make out of the broken egg? Hit me up. You know the comments. Hit me up on YouTube. By the way, a lot of comments after the last show. Thank you. Again, I cannot thank you guys enough. So if you're not a subscriber yet to the shows, it's quick, it's easy, it's free. Click that red subscribe button on YouTube. Keep smashing that thumbs up and hit that bell notification. That way you will not miss an episode. You don't want to miss one. I have a feeling some of you did a lot of drinking during USC's most recent loss. Hopefully you used Z-Biotics first. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. You don't want to get punched in the gut anymore. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough day after you drink. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So it's working for you while you're sleeping. Just remember to take Z-Biotics, your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how easy it is to use. Step 1, drink Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy the next day. You're going to have to wake up feeling refreshed. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more, and you're going to get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout, and you're going to get 15% off. I talked about it on yesterday's instant reaction show. And the Wolves are out. Okay. They want Miller Moss on the bench, and they want Jaden Maiafa given a chance to run this offense. Jaden's biggest attribute, his athleticism. He has everything. He has everything that you need Miller Moss to have this year. And that's not a knock on Miller. Some people are just born with natural abilities. Jaden Maiafa is a bigger, mobile version of Caleb Williams. He is not Caleb Williams, but he has those types of athletic skills. So when you need to escape, he has what Miller Moss doesn't possess. And Miller, he can run. We've all seen him do it. I mean, he sacrifices his body at the goal line. He's not willing to throw his body in there to get that touchdown for the team. And when he's not taking those types of hits, not that many when he's at the goal line, but when he's taking a lot more in the backfield. I mean, he's taken a lot of body blows. And again, we're just through 7 games this year. He's also taken a few headshots. As I mentioned on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, if you missed it, you missed a great show. Go check it out when you're done watching this one. USC is 3-4. This is officially bowl prep season. Okay, everything that you were hoping for, that we were all hoping for, it ain't happening this year. Now USC is playing for pride. They got to win their next games, and definitely you cannot lose to Notre Dame and UCLA. Those are your big marquee games. You got to salvage the season with those 2 wins. This Friday night, USC is at home against Rutgers. By the way, Rutgers just lost at home over the weekend to UCLA. So it's probably the right time, the perfect time to maybe let Miller Moss watch from the sidelines, clear his head. And if that's not a good reason, one of my everydayers, they asked me to ask this question to Coach Riley when the opportunity presents itself. I got a lot of smart people out there watching and listening to this show. He wants me to ask Coach Riley this question. You benched Quentin Joyner after he fumbled, and the result has been he's not fumbled since. So why, when a quarterback throws an interception, sometimes multiple interceptions during a game, do you not have him sit and watch at least one series? I'll let Coach Riley answer that question. But if I'm playing devil's advocate, pretending I'm Coach Riley, I would probably answer it this way. The quarterback position touches the ball on every snap as opposed to the running back who doesn't. But I get the question. I'm just not one series or 2 series is really going to fix the issue. And I'm not sure what kind of message it really sends. Obviously, the first and foremost, you got to protect the ball. I just don't know if you sit your quarterback for a series or 2 to drive that point home. If you're going to sit your quarterback, it's because you're making a move. We've seen Coach Riley do that. He did it at Oklahoma. He benched Spencer Rattler for Caleb Williams. Look, I hope whoever is playing quarterback for USC does well. But if we're being honest, everyone's favorite quarterback is always the backup. They're always looking for the next guy to take over for the guy who's, finger quotes, not getting it done. But let me ask you a question. What happens if Jaden Maiafa flops or has a mistake or 2? When does the musical chairs stop? Look, at this point of the season, it's time to give the younger players a chance to make a play. Desmond Stevens, the linebacker, he actually had a second interception in 2 games. But this one kind of got yanked away from him. USC got credit for a sack, meaning the quarterback, they stopped his forward momentum, even though he threw the ball and Stevens intercepted it. That's 2 games in a row. True freshman shown that he's capable. So I guess let's start seeing some of the younger guys. More Quentin Joyner. More Brian Jackson at running back. I'm not saying we need to sit Woody Marks, but let those guys complement Woody. Again, you're looking at the season, you're looking at the record. I'd love for Woody to get to 1,000 yards, keep that consecutive game streak going with the reception, which he has. I think it's at 52 or 53 now. But again, it's time to get the younger guys ready for next year. And also, pick the right time to get more guys on the defensive side of the ball into the game. I mentioned what Desmond Stevens is capable of doing. How many reps did Cameron Fountain get this past weekend? 4? Is that enough of a taste to develop? Hopefully he's going to be playing the next game and that number doubles. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. But I just don't know if 4 reps or whatever the actual number was. I'll get an actual snap count. We'll talk about in the next episode of Locked on USC. But you don't want to burn someone's red shirt for 4 snaps here, 4 snaps there. I just don't know if that helps with a player's development. Right now, the fans want Jaden Mayaba to get a chance. It's probably the right time. Will Riley stay loyal to Miller, or will he start developing for the future? I think we're going to find out on Friday. We know they're still working this week. They're going to try and get everything working right. We'll see what happens. When was the last time you went to any type of live event? USC game, concert, comedy show? The NBA season is upon us. Almost there. We're in the preseason right now. Are you going to go watch the Lakers and LeBron James and his son Bronny, that whole clown show? You willing to pay for that? If you are, I know where you can get a great season or a great ticket at a great price. Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks. It's going to make getting tickets for your favorite live event really super easy. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff. It's only going to show you incredible deals, great seats, so you're not wasting your time. If that doesn't sound cool, how does it sound? My favorite feature is you're going to know what the view looks like before you check out. So if you pick this seat, it's got the zoom feature. It's going to show you what you're looking at. I like that. And there's nothing else to be worried about. You're going to get the best price. The money back, it's not a money back guarantee, but with the Game Time guarantee, if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less, they're going to credit you back 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Everyone's worried about recruiting. It's going to take a big dump. How is USC going to hold on to this class if they keep losing? That's the scuttlebutt. Well, let me tell you how USC's recruiting is going. It's not as bad as you're making it in your mind. Okay? Take a deep breath. Breathe out. Woo-saw. Woo-saw. Okay? The day before USC lost to Maryland, guess what? They got a big-time commitment at a position of need. 6'8", Aaron Dunn, offensive tackle from Utah. He committed to USC after he decommitted from Utah. And it was his choice. And I heard a little bit of inside that maybe Utah kind of screwed the NIL pooch a little bit. That kind of segues into why everybody should calm down about USC's 2025 recruiting class. The one thing USC is doing right now is they're taking care of the 2025 class financially. NIL is stepping up, making sure these guys don't want to go anywhere. I spoke to someone after USC's most recent loss to Maryland. This person said, Mark, we're taking care of the class financially. Don't worry. Yes, I did that. I said, don't worry. Inside joke. These guys have recently flipped or committed to USC. Things are actually starting to look on the bright side for the recruiting class. Remember, recruits, they don't look at losses the same way the fans do. They see themselves as a solution to whatever's ailing the program. So recently, USC has either flipped or got a commitment from a 4-star linebacker from the state of Florida, Ty Jackson. That happened on September 8th. Right after that, USC got a commitment from a 5-star wide receiver from the state of Utah, Jerome Miles. Dude's a freak. He is everything you want in a wide receiver. Big, strong, fast. Makes defensive backs look silly. So you got a linebacker, you got a wide receiver. Oh, you want a defensive lineman? Remember former Oklahoma defensive line commit, Floyd Bucard? He gave a commitment on October 3rd. It's not wavering. And then I mentioned Aaron Dunn. He just committed on the 18th. Don't forget this. I'm not even sure if I mentioned this recently on the show, but USC flipped a commitment from Mississippi State, defensive back, safety. His name is Stephen Miller. This guy's got a lot of upside. In fact, I'll tell you, by the time the final rankings come out, for those of you who like to watch the stars, he'll be a 4-star, a high 4-star. He was previously committed to Mississippi State. And USC has a really good shot at his teammate in high school, defensive lineman. His name is Kevin Wynn, who was committed to Florida State. Both visited USC for a couple days. They were in town for the weekend when USC hosted Penn State. Again, tough loss, but those guys left thinking, all right, this might be the place to be. The other day, we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit with recruiting here. The other day, the topic came up about local recruiting and that USC hasn't been paying enough attention to Mater Dei and St. John Bosco. Let me ask the question, which players is USC, are they ignoring? They're not. Just because players play at, Bosco or Mater Dei, that doesn't mean they are the dudes. And I've talked about this before. When they disperse, when they aren't the sum of, when you have all those players at Mater Dei leave in 1 year and kind of branch out and go to Ohio State or Oregon or wherever they end up, USC, keep following them. Tell me how good they're doing in college. Because they seem to do better when they're all playing together as the best team in high school. And I saw, Coach Negro kind of commented on it. He gave the answer, kind of felt a little disingenuous. He wasn't sure why. This is what I'm going to say. Sometimes the enemy is within. Okay. I know for a fact, and this might not apply to Bosco or Mater Dei, but I know this happens in Southern California with high school recruiting. There are high school coaches, and it's usually assistant coaches, who have their own self-interest they're putting them above the recruit's interest. They're getting paid. They're told, hey, you get me a player from your school, you get him to commit up here, and I will take care of you also. Don't be naive. This stuff is going on. And sometimes you got coaches who don't like USC for whatever reason. I'll say it again. Just because guys play at Mater Dei or Bosco, or they're a local product, it doesn't mean they're the right guys for USC. I get it. Optics aren't great. But name off the players in the last 5 years, 3 years, if we want to just hold Coach Riley accountable, that USC didn't get, that they should have gotten, that are developing and looking like they were the best thing since sliced bread. I bet you you're not going to be able to name a whole bunch. Betcha. All right, that's it for this episode of Locked on USC. I'll be back with another one tomorrow. That's what we do 5 times a week. We're going to continue to talk about where the team is, where the team needs to go. Any news notes that comes down, I'm always going to be here for you. And don't forget, when you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, don't forget about Locked on College Football. Spencer McLaughlin, he hosts that show. I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about his home team. He'll give you an opinion about USC. And then when you're all done with the Locked On Network, get on over there to weareSC.com. There's a ton of great written content, not just from me, from Chris Arledge, from Eric McKinney. Scott Schrader's got you covered on recruiting. I'm telling you, it's where you need to go. I'm going to have guests throughout the week, by the way. So make sure you're tuning in. And until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.